Okay, so it's come to my attention down the grapevine that there's going to be another Draw Mohammed Day. Another one. I remember the fallout from the last one. Entire nations cut out the internet, stopping the members of those nations from having access to the information that they might want or need. And on top of that, this particular protest, this peaceful protest, is happening because of the actions of a small group of lunatics, and not the views and values of well over 1 billion people. What on earth is going on here? Alright, an organisation of about 10 people called Revolution Muslim decided to be unpleasant. You can't tar an entire population with the same brush because of the actions of a minority. And as if this is to say, we're not afraid, well, basically, afraid of what? Making an image of Mohammed. Doesn't matter either way. And the vast majority of Islamic people don't actually care. They'll feel very hurt by it. And they'll feel even more hurt if there is an organised, regular event of this nature. This is going to do more to radicalise otherwise peaceful Islamic people than anything that Al-Qaeda could do. And on top of that, what about peace between the various Islamic communities? There's a great deal of separation between them. And for some pillock in the Western world to think that they can get involved in this debate is absolutely abhorrent. Remember, the individual who started this particular ball rolling is someone who believes that a person born into any culture is responsible for any atrocities that that culture has done. So a newborn baby born into a Christian family in the year of 2011 is directly responsible in his eyes with the witch burnings. So the ideas of a lunatic are becoming part of a public holiday. Can't you see, how insane this is to even participate in it? Now, as far as freedom of speech is concerned, you've got it. No one can take that away from you. And as far as this idea about, intimidation and death threats and all the rest of that, is there any one of us who has not received death threats for one thing or another? I've received death threats from people of a wide variety of different faiths and those of no faith whatsoever. Does that mean to say that I'm going to assume that all of those groups and every single one of the people in them is someone who should be hated or derided or ridiculed? No. Do I feel that all of the members, and I mean all the members of those groups, are responsible for the atrocities committed by a few members of those groups? Of course not. And how far back should one's memory go? Remember, this particular event is being set up by a British person living in America. And America doesn't have the most beautiful civil rights history in the world, does it? Think about the Thanksgiving holiday, the celebration of the Indians being good to the Europeans, and then the Europeans deciding to massacre the bastards. Think about the influence of the British on the Indian subcontinent. The Indians were quite a progressive people in India, not the Indians as in, red Indians in America, but the actual Indians in India were very progressive people. They more or less got rid of their caste system. And then the British go over there and they reinforced the caste system because it was so similar to the class system and therefore could be a greater tool of social control, and thus retarded the progression of the culture and the society within India. It's complete hypocrisy to assume that one person who thinks he's on the side of right because he's got some kind of connection to the scientific community actually is on the side of right. Because scientific thought itself is responsible for a great quantity of atrocities, as I'm sure you know from your 20th century history. The kind of ideas that should be encouraged in the world are those which are saner, more well balanced, more well thought out. Not those which are based upon anger, frustration, misrepresentation, lies, bigotry, hatred. And if you think that it's somehow funny, or amusing, or indeed brave, to be a sad little git and sit inside your bedroom and draw up a little image on Microsoft Paint and put that on YouTube, on Facebook, on MySpace, broadcast it on Twitter, get a life. It might be cheeky, but you've got no idea the damage that you're doing. And one of these days, you'll look at the changes in society, and yes, you will be able to say, I've done that. But will the changes in the global society be the changes that you would have liked to have seen? I'd have to argue, no. Think about it. If things did actually work, if there was something we could actually do in this year of 2011, alright, that could actually bring about greater acceptance of science, greater acceptance of abiogenesis, evolution, Big Bang Theory, that kind of stuff. Would it work out better if the accent was purely to honestly undermine the arguments of people who have extreme views and values? Or would it be to completely misrepresent another argument and promote that misrepresented argument as if it was a truth, as if it was a fact, and spread that all over the internet? Now, you might think that misrepresentations are important because people can rally behind them and they represent something that people feel deeply. But if you're reacting to something that people feel deeply, you're not thinking, and you've thrown thought out of the window. The very people who revere the subject of reason are throwing reason out of the window. And if you can't see that, what makes you any better, and I mean any better, than the fundamentalists of any denomination? And I mean at all. Sure, I also respect science and education, but I also respect the education bit. Because the purposes of education is not just to reprogram you to accept the Big Bang Theory, abiogenesis and evolution, but to teach you about the thought processes which enable people to be able to find out what is real and what is not real. That's the benefits of education. That's what it can do. So, if you want to promote education, then you also should be promoting the fruits of education and showing little bits of video, little flash beautiful bits of video here on YouTube of rockets going off into space, or of images from the Hubble telescope. I don't consider that to be the fruits of education. I consider the processes whereby people come closer to the truth, not just in one field of endeavour, but in a wide variety of different fields of endeavour, to be the fruits of education. Science itself, natural science itself, is a great help. But to society and to people, it could even become a new religion. And a new fundamentalism could appear. And realistically, you shouldn't really want that to happen. You should be focusing on the fruits of education. Not the fruits of one belief against another. Not the fruits of misrepresentations because it's cool, or because it's cheeky, or because it's fun. But the actual process of thought, and to educate people in that actual process of thought, and to turn that into part of the new orthodoxy. Now I'm going to tell you something that's probably going to make you laugh. Many years ago, when I was younger and more political, I actually wrote a letter to the Monster Raving Loony Party here in the United Kingdom, because they had a little thing on their website saying, if you've got any policy decisions which would be popular that you would like us to consider, please write to us. And so I did. And I wrote, how about teaching people how to think? How about writing that into the actual process of educating people, you know, from childhood onwards, and to make that a part of the culture? Wouldn't that be a good thing? And I got a reply back saying, well, it might be very good, but on the other hand, it wouldn't be very popular, so we're not going to do it. Not even the Monster Raving Loony Party in the United Kingdom wants people to think. So what do you actually think Thunderfoot wants you to do? Think about it. What do you actually think Thunderfoot wants you to do? Does he want you to be able to think like a scientist? To be able to think like a fully, in-depth, educated individual? Or do you think he just wants you to do as he says for his own political benefits, and not for yours, not for society's, not for the world's, not for the Islamic people, not for the Western people, not for the American people, not for the British people, but for him? And where else is he going to take this damn campaign of his? And what good will it do you in your country? Because if the overriding message here is science and education for the win, why doesn't he have the capacity to focus in on the education side of things? Why not? Because he doesn't want you to think. He doesn't want you to be bright enough to criticize him. He's being a politician because he wants you to be his slave. To obey him. No matter what he does or what he wants to do or how he wants to do it. And yes, he does misinterpret things. He does misrepresent the arguments. He is using logical fallacies. Right? And you know why? Because he's just as bad as all of those people who want creationism to be in the classroom. Because he wants people to accept his orthodoxy and to make sure they obey. And it's not a question one is better than the other, because they're both terrible if they don't encourage people to think and also to teach people how thinking is done. They are both as bad as each other because they are freezing up society's progress, freezing up the progress of human intelligence, stopping people from ever being able to think for themselves and only to follow the culture and tradition that they are told to do or they are told to follow, which is wrong, plain and simple wrong. Now you've got a choice. Right now, this year, you've got a choice. You could submit under the thumb of an extremist, or you could submit under the thumb of another extremist. Or alternatively, you could think about the word education and what the fruits of education really are, and to encourage that. And if you don't know how to do it, then you had better go straight back to school and get a fucking education. The only reason that you could possibly participate in this Draw Mohammed Day event is because from behind your computer monitor, it seems fun. It seems cheeky. It seems, yeah, I'm going to enjoy this, I'm going to enjoy this. Like a little 4-year-old child, for crying out loud sake. And you think that you're like the superior people. You're not thinking it through. You're just being puppets for another person's ideology. You're under somebody else's thumb. You're not acting like educated people. You're not thinking about what is going to happen in the world if this event is pulled off, and how the progression within society could occur. To be honest, this whole thing just sickens me. Alright? It just sickens me. And it keeps people in the same Bronze Age thinking as fundamentalist religion does. It just keeps people there. Oh, this is someone who I can get behind. I can do as they say instead. Oh, grow up. It's supposed to be the 21st century. You're not supposed to be just hiding behind some kind of new cult leader. You're supposed to be able to think for yourself and be an independent individual. That's all for now.